Hello and welcome back to the Rugby Connection podcast, the only fan-run podcast for all the internets of the rugby world. Well, we are doing something different this week because we are 1 week away from the summer test beginning. We cannot wait, and I've called in a lot of help. So representing Scotland is myself. Representing Wales through residency is Cam, but he gets South Africa as well. We've got the Queen of New Zealand talking about England versus the All Blacks. And we've got Andy, who's also going to argue with Cam later on for South Africa, Ireland. Everyone
love that the pod has residency rules. I think that's great.
No, I didn't agree to these residency rules.
Only for Cam, because he was trying to not pick a country for the Six Nations.
This has been a running joke throughout the podcast for a while now, and I always get stuck with Wales.
Because you live in Wales, your residency's up. Just play.
Okay, but that doesn't mean I have any affiliation to the team. Sorry, Welsh fans, I do apologise.
There we go. Anyway, summer tours are here. The squads are out. All the teams are en route to wherever they're going. I'm going to build up the excitement because there's a lot of talk about some tours. There's less talk about others. We'll start off with mine because nobody's really talking about it, and it's fine. I understand why. Scotland's tour of the Americas, taking on Canada, USA, Chile, and Uruguay. I mean, Scotland should go 4 for 4. Let's be honest.
Yeah, you should go 4 for 4, and it should be a chance for Townsend to blood a few new players. The squad is, you've got some exciting players in there. I think one of the standouts, Gus War. I think that's the one that I sort of noticed the most. But it is going to be a rotated Scotland squad. You've got a few of your big guns in there, but yeah, it's a tour of depth building and rotation, isn't it? I suspect each 4 of the games are going to have a fairly rotated team for each of them. So
yeah, I've done that. I've kind of penciled in teams like we all do, and I had this squad for Canada, and then kind of just move them up. So if you're the starting list heading against Canada, you're not starting against the USA. The bench starts against USA, and then that will be my rotation. But Andy, quick thoughts on Scotland?
Chance for Hastings or Healy to get a game, isn't it? When Scotland play normally, if Russell's around, he plays every minute. So it will be interesting to see a couple of other people given a chance to play 10.
It'll be fun. It's going to be interesting because they're both going to be competing in the domestic league because you've got Healy at Edinburgh and Adam Hastings returning to Glasgow. So
it's pretty healthy situation, isn't it? To have your number 2 and number 3 both playing at home, both in your 2 big teams. It really helps because you're never going to keep Finn in Scotland now that he can get the mega bucks wherever he wants to go.
I mean, we're just going to cause destruction because we are taking Sione Tuipulotu and Hugh Jones on that tour. I don't know why.
For Uruguay, that's my thinking is why maybe
not?
You want to pick a stronger team in that game, but
that's what I was thinking. What team do we go? Obviously not full out, but the strongest possible. Is it Uruguay?
It has to be Uruguay.
Because I think Jamie Ritchie's getting his 50th against Canada, which is good because he actually started his debut the last time we went round there. So I like that.
That's cool.
Yeah. Ella, any thoughts before we quickly go into?
Not a huge thought, but I just, on the Tuipulotu train, uncovered in a quick segue towards the under-20s that a third Tuipulotu brother is lining up for the Aussies this weekend. What the heck?
So I guess
get him on the plane after this. Maybe you can have a little lineup. But no, I personally think seeing a tour of the Americas is exciting, but that's just me.
I mean, the kickoff time sucks for the UK. I think it's...
What time is it?
So the Canada one's not too bad. It's 10 o'clock at night. The USA one is 11:30 at night. So my review is going to be 1 in the morning. So it's fine. And then I think Chile and Uruguay is 7 or 8 p.m, which that's fine. That's all good. That's good primetime rugby, that. But moving on to possibly the weirdest tour build up to this. The Wallabies versus Wales. Historically, 2 great nations. They love going at each other. But we don't know what this Wallabies team could do because we've not seen them play under Joe Schmidt. And Warren Gatland's calling players up that hasn't played professional rugby yet. No, That's interesting. With one fly half, that's Sam Costello. So
Yeah.
who knows? I think, I hate to say it because I don't like the two-test series, but I do think it's going to be 1-1. And it's all going to be boring, and you can get a decider in the autumn because they are playing each other in the autumn as well. So who knows? We'll get Ella. Ella likes talking about the Aussies a little bit.
Well, I just think it's so interesting that 8 months ago after the World Cup, this was a tasty looking matchup. You know what I mean? Wales absolutely rioted against the Wallabies in pool play, made it into the quarterfinals against many people's expectations, I think. And the Wallabies obviously fell well short of anybody's expectations, including their own. So I think Wales at that point would have been saying, yeah, game on. This is going to be so good. The storyline was there for an exciting contest. And then somehow the roles have kind of reversed. It feels like under the steadying hand of Joe Schmidt, the Wallabies, there's a bit more hope. And under Gatland at the moment, it feels like Wales are just the opposite. I don't know. That's how I read it from down here.
Fair, yeah, it's a good way to put it. Yeah, because you wouldn't have thought after the World Cup, like, oh, Wales are going to have a quite comfortable tour because the Wallabies are in disarray, and now it's like there's a lot of fresh faces in that Welsh team, and it's not their fault. You're going to have a rebuild at some point, but I think we're also used to having like the Welsh team, like Sam Warburton, Alan Wynne Jones, Gareth Anscombe, Liam Williams, Lee Halfpenny, just to name a few. And now they're all gone, apart from Liam Williams. But
I think that's what summed up Wales's performance in the World Cup, because they were sort of riding off the back of a few of those golden generation players that were still in the squad and working within the squad. However, come the Six Nations, where we've seen them get the wooden spoon, those players are gone, and Gatland is left with, a bunch of brand spanking new players who haven't been performing in their domestic leagues in the URC with the Welsh regions, and now having to cobble together a team, get the wooden spoon in the Six Nations. Whereas if we look at Australia, Eddie Jones obviously had a poor campaign with them in the World Cup, out in the pool stages, first time ever. But if we look at them now, there's still a lot of talent in that team, a lot of international experience in that team. And he's got Schmidt's got access to players who have been performing well in their domestic season, because the Australian teams have competed this year in Super Rugby. So I think it's an interesting situation where both coaches are in the same situation. They've got sort of a rebuild phase on their hands. However, I feel like Schmidt has the better tools at his hand, and at home, I think it's going to be a 2-0 to Australia. I don't think Wales are going to have the experience to go down there and get a win.
fair enough. That's all good points.
Who would suffer most for a loss in the series out of the two, if we're calling it a series without including the autumn? Is it worse for Australia looking towards, I guess, Lions series, home World Cup? Or is it worse for Wales in terms of, I guess, things being bad and maybe getting worse? I don't know. What do you guys reckon?
I'd have to say Australia.
Yeah, I might lean towards it might be worse for Australia, just because the schedule that they've got coming up.
Exactly, and purely because Schmidt has avoided picking overseas players. He's stuck to selection, in-country, domestic selection. And if he can't get results with that selection policy, that is going to force his hand to bring players back in. And like you said, with the schedule coming up, he has a lot of work on his hands to get the Australian team performing before the Lions tour and, through the 4-year cycle before the World Cup. So I think Australia want to get the ball rolling a bit faster than Wales do in terms of their schedule and the players that they've selected.
Makes you feel for Gatland though, because at least Schmidt has the ripcord. At least he can pull the foreign-based players back in. If Wales go and lose 2-0, I think you're right. I think because of the rugby championship and stuff, there's way more on the table for the Aussies. But imagine if they lose 2-0, the Gatland can't do anything. There's no emergency button. There's nothing.
I just keep falling back on, it was after the Six Nations, and we all spoke about it, that Gatland did I asked to leave. They said no. I was like, are we just going to use this for every time now? that every time you lose a game, you're like, I said I was going to leave, they didn't let me leave, so I'm stuck. Like, are you stuck here now? Is that just like out of like, well, I don't want to be here, so I don't care if you win or lose. I feel like that's not how GATS operates, but
No,
I
but
don't know why you would come up with that statement.
well, he was just gutted, wasn't he? Like he came back in to try and save them, and I mean, it's not his fault that all the good players retired.
Yeah,
I feel for him.
it'd be a weird coincidence if it was his fault though. Just if it came from someone like GATS is back. Yeah, nah, I'm good. I don't want to play anymore.
I actually do want to ask everyone, like, watching Wales, I do think he has a part to play because, like, there's no attack to speak of. They don't really kick the ball. Like, what do you think is going on there?
I think his coaching style is very reminiscent of how his old Wales team used to play. And that worked with that set of players, but this is a new set of players who maybe don't have the same attributes and it's just not functioning. And I personally was against Gatland coming back to coach Wales, nothing against him, but purely because a new set of players probably warrants a new coach and a fresh game plan.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't like the game plan. Sorry, Alf, you go.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, I think remembering where he was as well when he was coming back to Wales, he had led the Chiefs to their worst losing streak ever.
Yeah, that's true.
In Super Rugby. It was like 8 games or something, So it's been the World Cup was a happy moment, I think, being sandwiched by just
I actually forgot he was the Chiefs head coach.
I completely forgot as well.
I remember watching a game and just thinking, like, yeah, worn ball doesn't work in Super Rugby. You need to be a bit more loose. Just do something, please. Don't just keep hitting up. It
hasn't been good for Chiefs coaches in international rugby because Ian Foster wasn't a particularly successful Chiefs coach either, and so yeah, I don't know.
So there you go. If you want to do well at international, don't work for the Chiefs. Basically, I'm sure you'll do fine if you just stick to the Chiefs and don't aim for international rugby. But yeah,
don't have dreams.
Don't have dreams. Check on yourself.
What do you reckon? Let's say it's a disaster and there's more fallings out with the players and all that kind of stuff, and they decide in 6 months or whatever that he has to go. Who's waiting in the wings?
Ian Foster.
Yes.
Ian Foster.
Who's the best region right now in Wales?
Well, the Ospreys. It would be Booth, wouldn't it?
It would be Booth.
Yeah.
I always see what's his name? Scarlet's head coach. Played for Wales.
Peel,
there you go. He's always been
Peel, yeah.
he's always linked, so maybe. I don't know.
No.
That's really weird to think of
God, don't call him up to the Wales. Jesus Christ.
Why not? Get the other stuff.
I live in West Wales, which is sort of the Scarlets region, Scarlets feeder region. A lot of Scarlets fans around here, and Dwayne Peel is hated with a passion.
Oh no! Oh dear. Maybe not then.
It's a tricky situation, but
tough. Yeah.
It would look really good for the Scarlets to have back-to-back coaches get the Wales job. Don't say it's going to work, but it'd be nice.
Yeah. But, it worked so well under PVAC.
So well. So well. Not. And still managed to beat us. Well, I don't know how. I don't get that. Overall, it was a shit show, and I'm like, yeah, and they still walked away with the Six Nations. How have you done that? Because everyone got red carded, apparently.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's more focus on Australia. Wales, I can't even describe what's going on just with Wales now. It's all very heart on their sleeve for the first half, and then they're of just the constant hitting up. They're burnt out by the second half and then get blitzed.
This tour will be a turn on the TV, see who's winning, switch to another game sort of tour for me.
Australia's winning. Nice. Come back later.
Exactly.
Maybe one of the we're getting into the excitement levels now. We've got England versus the All Blacks. The first time in 10 years that England have actually toured All Blacks, L is buzzing. We're buzzing. It's Razor's first crack at the All Blacks. The squad caused some controversy. Overall, it's a good team. It's just the big Hoskins Satutu.
Get it out there, Murray. Get it out there.
Me and Andy spoke about it last week. Just it's who's in the right, who's in the wrong. Is it Razor that's right? Is it Hoskins that's wrong? Is it the other way about? Who knows? But Ella, you probably have better insight than us on that one.
First point is that the Lucies are just so stacked, so there was always going to be someone unlucky. Like, that's not including Sam Cane, you know, and Braden Yosse missed out. Peter Larkey's only there as an apprentice. There's 4 or 5 names who could have been there. So people were always going to be unlucky, but maybe phrasing it as unlucky is there were always people who weren't going to fit in the mix that Razor wanted. And he's been quite clear that he wanted players who were good on both sides of the ball, and he's looked at the stats and said Satiti has those numbers that we want over Satutu. And I think there's been a couple of videos that people have done where they've broken down, particularly the defensive stats, and it's quite clear where Hoskins sits. I do think there's a point to be made around, well, he's still like an X-Factor player that would probably walk into many other teams. Can you not back yourself as a coach to bring him in, take him out of that specific role he had in the Blues game plan, and coach him under your game plan and see what comes of it? But Razor was pretty specific in saying this is the squad we think can beat England. So he's got Razor focus on those 2 games. Who knows what he's thinking for the Rugby Championship, where we come up against teams who play very differently. So very, very exciting. We've got a great new jersey to ring in the start of a new era. So I'm feeling it's great. It's so good.
Yeah, obviously the whole Satutu thing took the world by storm because he wasn't in it and because of the Super Rugby form. But overall, it's a good team. It's really stacked. I'm excited to see Sami Penifinal, Dalton Papali'i, and Ardi Savea carve it up in the back row. I feel like that covers a lot of all the bases of what a back row should do. So good luck to England trying to stop that. But England,
I'm personally just looking forward to the Damien McKenzie versus Marcus Smith battle. Because how good is that going to be?
The fist bump versus a smile. Well,
exactly. Because we have seen. Obviously, we saw England in the Six Nations. They got a win against Ireland, and then otherwise a decent Six Nations. They'll be happy coming out of that. And then we've seen them on their first game against Japan. Steve Borthwick with a big smile on his face. Very much a training run. But they shipped some points, and it was very much a warm up for them. But we haven't really seen the All Blacks play since the World Cup final. We haven't seen the All Blacks play under Razor. We haven't seen the All Blacks play with all the new players in the ranks. So England are very much known, whereas the All Blacks are very much unknown.
You have to think England won't have a better chance than this to take a scalp over the next 4 years. Like, if it's going to come, this first test is where it's going to come most likely. And I think they look. I started to get really worried about England during the Six Nations because I thought, especially those last 2 games, like beating Ireland felt like a big step forward for them. You can build a lot on that. And then they were really unlucky not to win in France in the final game. And France had kind of found their mojo again by then. So I'm a bit worried that we're going to see like a pretty strong England team over the next 4 years.
God.
I think George Ford getting injured was probably the best thing to happen for this tour, because you are giving Marcus Smith the chance to start, which people have been crying out for so long. And we're finally seeing Finn Smith hopefully be a regular on the bench and, see what he can do in the 10 jersey as well.
To ask that, who starts at 10? Is it Marcus
Smith sweared, but Marcus is the guy.
It will be Marcus, yeah, because Borthwick said so after the Japan game, didn't he? Like, this is my team. This is what you're going to see in that first test.
Yeah.
And it's mad to think that they were like the non-attack team, for like get to the 22 and grubber it.
For the World Cup, they were. Yeah. They were the kicking team. They were the go for the drop goals, go for the penalties. And now against Japan and in the Six Nations, we've seen them sort of change, transform.
Well, they've always had the players. I guess like I remember when Borthwick was taking a lot of criticism, a lot of people in the media and like creators and stuff as well were saying like he's a very like step by step kind of procedurally focused guy, and it's definitely come to fruition, right? Like he built the platform, and now it looks like they're reaping the benefits.
It's one battle I'm excited for, and it only has to happen once, and I'm okay with it. Manny Feoboso versus Mark Kaleo. Oh, both muscular, both rapid, both great under the high ball, both just elusive. They're just going to clash heads, and they're probably just going to shrug it off because they're both absolute freaks of nature. They're fine, but the more I think about it, like the head-to-heads across the board are very, very tasty indeed. So I for one, I'm very excited. I think this is probably the best tour to have the 1-0 draw. I really hate that it's 2 tests. Why is there not a third test?
Are they playing again in November?
Yeah. So I think World Rugby have said that this is like part of the new version of the window, is that you do 2 and then 1.
Okay.
Because that should be returned for everyone.
Yeah.
So we have to wait till November for the decider.
If it's 1-1 and then we get decider in November, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Makes you want to go to it, doesn't it?
It does.
That actually makes more sense now, because that does away with what I think it happened to Scotland in like 2022. We did a 3-test series against Argentina.
Played them again.
Yeah, we played them 4 times in a year. I was like, we don't need this. Nobody needs that.
It did end 2-2 though.
Yeah, exactly. See, so we need the 5th. No, I am very excited about England versus New Zealand, and it's actually the games that'll start off the scheduling, because it's like 8:05 in the morning over here.
Yeah. Oh, can I just say one more thing? How happy I am to see TJ Perinara back in the All Black squad and hopefully starting at scrum half.
Yeah. That's wild. Just the series of events. Because I don't know if you guys realize it was 450 days he was out of playing rugby. Achilles, 2 surgeries. He probably wasn't going to be starting for the Hurricanes this year because he had Cam Roigard there. What are the chances that he gets a season-ending injury and then he manages to play an incredible season? Now he's back in the mix. He actually debuted for the All Blacks in the English tour the last time they were here. That was when he first started. Or played his first game.
Poetic.
So it is. So no, very pleased for him. I imagine he will probably be leading the haka also. So that's gonna all culminate beautifully.
If there's one man to do it instead of Aaron Smith, it's TJ Perinara.
Yeah, a nice little handing of the baton. So no, and I think just on your point about Andy about games being ripe for the picking, when the English were last here, they played in Dunedin against the All Blacks and only lost by 1 point. Like they probably should have won that game. So I feel like Dunedin, where the opening game is, has some good energy for the English. So they're not there yet. They're still hanging around in Auckland from what I've seen on Instagram, but very exciting.
That's what loitering around in Auckland.
What is the local
today.
What is the local expectation for the first game? Is it a win, or are people sort of a bit nervous?
If you'd asked people like straight after the World Cup, it would have been, Razor, you're coming in, you're winning that first game, and we won't settle for anything else. I think as people have sat with themselves, seen a bit of England, reckoned with the fact that it's very uncertain, the idea that Razor's probably going to be trying to implement new systems, but they've only had 10 days to learn them. I saw an interview with Bowden Barrett, and he was saying, man, like these guys were so organized, the new coaches, they came in, there was so much detail. So I imagine that's a lot of information. So I think people would be disappointed with a loss, but not upset. Like I think people could cope with it in that first game. And then obviously the week after we're at Eden Park. Very good run we've had there. Hopefully, just that energy can push us over the line.
I love how underplayed Ella said that there. Yeah, we've done all right at Eden Park.
I love the shade from Bowden Barrett. I love comments like that where it's like, oh, the detail in these new guys. The implication being that the last lot weren't really on the ball.
No.
This is what we need. We need to go back to the Wallabies team then and get all the insights from the Joe Schmidt. Andy, you said that was not Eddie Jones was just like, yeah, we're not needing a structure. Just
go out and play, boys.
Go out and play, boys.
Heads up rugby.
Heads up rugby. Yeah, keep the ball alive. Just go for it. Didn't work. Definitely didn't work. But anyway, Razor's first crack at it. will he get the series win, or will it be a draw, or will England get a clean sweep? I doubt it's going to be the England clean sweep, to be honest. You don't win at Eden Park. No, nobody does.
I don't know. I think it depends on what Razor does, to be honest, because half of me expects him to implement a similar style to how he did with the Crusaders team. You know, dominant set piece, very much run off the fly half, and, you know, just that classic Crusaders attack. Or if he's going to rip up the playbook and try build something new, I think that would be the safer option, going with a plan that he knows. And he's got players in that team who he knows. I think the risky option for him would be tearing up the playbook and trying something new.
I get the feeling that it's whatever's happening for England is going to be isolated for these tests, and perhaps they've kind of got that idea that we just need to get the ball rolling. And I think people thought the squad had more people in it from the World Cup than maybe they thought. Like, it was a bit more conservative in some ways. It wasn't a completely fresh squad. So I think you can expect that there will be some similarities and systems that the players are already familiar with, have been kind of operating under for this England series. And then maybe Rugby Championship is where we'll see Razor at his innovating best.
I'm all for
Yeah,
that.
100%.
I like that. I'm all for that. Right, the big one, the most hyped. You cannot escape this. I'm telling you now, boys, play nice. We've got the Springboks versus Ireland, world champions versus Six Nations champions, the two best teams on the planet, clashing heads, and my God, the fans do not like each other. I generally can't escape it. You've got South Africans saying this stuff, and you've got Razzie posting the Ireland team a week early. You've got the Irish media.
Did Razzie? I didn't see that. Did Razzie post the Ireland team?
Yeah, he posted the Ireland team on X.
Ireland team.
The best bit was how
he posted his predicted Ireland team with all their caps. I was like, oh, Jesus, Razzie.
But
the best bit is he misspelt Pedro Mani, so it looks like his name is Pedro Mani.
I'm looking at it now.
The mind games from both sides is cinema at this point. We've not even touched the ball yet. And
it's a grudge match. It is. It's a.
I mean, he's not wrong. He's probably not wrong with that team.
It's just the war of words from both sides. It's not like the players have like barely said anything. It's just the media and the coach staff is just like, yeah, let's go. Let's rub them the wrong way.
The South African players have had a few things to say.
Yeah,
the Irish players have been quiet.
Did his podcast Walking with Jim Hamilton.
Yeah.
Evans had a few things to say.
Colby
Simon Zebo's had a few things to say.
Did you see? Apparently, he rang Razzie to apologize after that because he was
Razzie
like,
said,
"I meant it as a joke." Yeah.
Yeah, let it fuel the fire. Razzie loves it.
I thought it was pretty obvious he was joking on the pod, though.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, I guess people are just enjoying the rivalry, like you say.
No, but the thing is, it is a grudge match because obviously, you know, South Africa, we've won 2 World Cups in the last 2 cycles. However, we haven't beaten Ireland since 2016. So that's a chip on our shoulder because, you know, we've conquered the world, we've won the biggest trophy, but we still can't beat this one team. They've beaten us 3 times in a row now, and we can't get that chip off our shoulder. And that pool stage World Cup loss was, you know, because they'll always have that over us. You won the World Cup, but we beat you. So I think that's the fuel to the fire for South African fans, and I think it will be for the players and Razzie as well because, you know, Razzie was there. I think in the Chasing the Sun documentary, he was there for the 2017 Ireland versus South Africa Test match, and then obviously he's lost to Ireland twice in his tenure and the Jacques Nienaber tenure. But this does feel like a settle. This does feel like a right. Here you are. You're coming to South Africa now. You're playing us at home. You've won the Six Nations. We've won the World Cup. Both teams have a claim to be the best team in the world. Let's just get on the pitch, and it's going to be a rough series. It's going to be a physical series, and whoever comes out. I think this is the one series that if it was a 1-1 draw, it would be the most disappointing.
That's fair.
Jesus, I'm praying for a
both
1-1
fan
draw.
bases, because I know both fan bases
I'd
want
be
a
thrilled.
2-0.
I'd be absolutely thrilled with 1-1. Like, we've won one game in South Africa ever in our history. You know,
That's true.
It's not. I know the two teams are very evenly matched. In the last couple of meetings, especially, it's been like the finest margins. But I think going away to South Africa, because of our record there, like you've got to get past that history first before you can start treating it like a normal test match.
But
You know what I mean?
is why we need that third match, because we could see similar to the Wales tour not long ago. You know, South Africa get one, slim one, then Ireland get one, and then it's all up to the third test. It's the same as the Ireland New Zealand tour. We need that third match.
See, that's what I'm saying. Two test series suck. Put a third.
Normally, I'd agree with you, lads, but given where we are, I'm quite happy it's only 2. It's not 3.
Can it be done at altitude though? That's the
Glasgow
question.
did it. Glasgow did
it. Yeah.
At the end of the season, though, both Munster and Leinster, the players look tired.
Yeah.
Like, I am a bit worried about how many minutes are in all those Ireland players. You know, there's going to be some of those South African players who will literally have played that Welsh game, that warm-up game, and no other international rugby in the last, I don't know how long. So I'm a bit worried about how they cope. A bit worried about the set piece because of what happened to Leinster against the Bulls. It just feels like, you know, Ireland were like, before the World Cup, Six Nations before the World Cup, they were all conquering. They just looked peerless, looked great at the World Cup until they went out. And even in the game they went out, it was an amazing game. But this year, Six Nations, we looked like not quite at the same level. And now the club teams have sort of stalled towards the end of the season. And it's tricky because when you're number 1 in the world and you're beating everybody, it's like the only place you can go is down. So you don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill, but things that maybe feel a little bit stale. I think they need a really big performance in that first game.
Fair. Because we were talking about it earlier, but like, if the Boks go on to win 2-0, is there like any panic or no?
I don't think so. Like, they're the world champions and you got to play them twice away from home. You know, as long as you don't, I mean, if you get absolutely hosed twice, maybe if you ship too many points, but you know, it's one of the hardest places to go.
Yes.
And I think judging by Farrell's team selection as well, you look at the two squads and there's a lot more sort of fresh faces, debutants in the Springbok squad. Not so many debutants now because of that Wales test, but there's a lot of fresh faces in that South Africa squad for the tour. Whereas Andy Farrell's policy, I think, with this Ireland tour has been very much steady the ship. You know, he's missing key players like Gibson Park. He's missing key players like Hugo Keenan. Players like a Mac Hansen hasn't come back into the fold. So he's got some gaps in his team. And obviously forced into making changes there. So I think the rest of the selection has been very steady. And I think we're going to see much of what we expect from Ireland. I'm just interested to see how the likes of maybe a Craig Casey operates at scrum half. How we're going to see maybe an O'Brien at fullback, what we're going to see, who's going to break onto the wing, is it going to stay with Nash? So as much as it is keeping steady, there are some questions to be answered for this Ireland team on this tour.
Fullback's a really interesting one because, you know, O'Brien, I don't think he's a natural fullback. I think he's a winger first and foremost, but obviously he can play there. Frawley has been playing 15, but he's been pulled all over the place. Like sometimes he's at 10 and, you know, I think it must be difficult having to play all those different roles at the same time. And South Africa are going to kick the ball a lot. So a lot of pressure on whoever ends up playing 15.
I was just going to ask that. Who do you pick at 15? Do you go Jimmy O'Brien or do you go Kieran Frawley?
I think it'll be O'Brien because he covers more ground and Frawley's the better 6'2" substitute if you go 6'2" on the bench.
He covers so many positions.
Yeah.
I was going to go over there and say, Rassi, I'm doing a 7-1 just for fun.
It would be funny.
Takes it one step further and 8-0.
8-0. No split. There you go.
Got Finlay Beelum at fullback.
God, that would send like media into a frenzy if anyone went 8-0.
Yeah.
Posting the squad? I know everyone always just says Razzie mind games whenever he does anything, and it's just like just explains it. But what is he like? We all knew what team they were going to play. What's he getting out of posting the squad?
I don't know. I read it and I went, right, and
You know what I think it is? I think it's Razzie's way of saying this is the team you're going to play. He's sort of saying straight to Andy Farrell, this is the team you are going to play. I know this. I know what team you're going to play. I've played this team so many times. I know what to expect from your team.
Andy Farrell read it and went, shit, he's right. Yeah, just like
Farrell's looking at his team sheet.
yeah.
Does Andy Farrell go, is this the team he wants me to play? Should I switch it up and play something different? Or is that him double, crossing me?
That's what I've seen a few fans say. They've been saying that, this is Razzie. She's trying to make Andy Farrell second guess. Andy Farrell's going to make some changes. I'm like, no, he's not.
I don't think he's second guessed a moment of his life so far.
No,
that's the steadiest, most like he's not an overthinker. Andy Farrell, he has a plan and he executes.
But the thing is, like Ireland know exactly what to expect when facing the Springboks. We don't hide anything. Especially, I don't think we're going to change anything with our game plan for this tour because this is a tour that we want to win. So Andy Farrell knows exactly what he's expecting, and I think Razzie's just saying, I know exactly what to expect from you as well. So it is just going to be a case of. Sorry, go on.
I'm saying Andy Farrell should tweet out the Springboks team. Why not?
But the thing is that Springbok team's harder to predict.
Yeah.
But
the actual personnel, and you'll have serious egg on your face if you tweet it out and then you're wrong. Does Andy Farrell even have Twitter? That's a good question.
He does seem like an old-fashioned kind of guy who doesn't use social media.
I don't think Twitter is a safe place for anyone with the last name Farrell, unfortunately.
Probably not.
That's true.
Yeah, good point. Very good point.
Oh, that's so funny, Razzie. Just definitely got a couple of brandies in him and just thought, I'll have a go.
But
honestly, though, he's so good for the sport. Like, when you think about it as theatre, there is no one doing it better than Rassie Erasmus, and we would be so much poorer as a spectacle without him. Like, him and Eddie Jones single-handedly carrying the sport.
But that's why I can't wait for going off topic, I can't wait for the Rugby Championship because we're going to have the likes of Rassie Erasmus, we're going to have Razor and Joe Schmidt all coaching against each other.
Who played at the same time as Rassie and Razor as well. So Joe Schmidt's been on the media trail. Like, he knows he's got a big job, I guess, selling rugby in Australia.
He's got damage control right now in Australia. He really has
but he's doing
control.
really well. I saw a press conference he did, and I think someone had tweeted about it saying the journos who do the press for the Australians must not know what it's like to speak to someone who's being upfront with them. He kind of said, someone had asked him if he's feeling nervous, and he went, well, yeah, there's so many unknowns. I've never been less prepared because I've only just met these players. But he said if I wasn't nervous, then I wouldn't have that edge to be able to go out and do a good job. And it sounds like the press, the media team just went, whoa. Like, wow.
No, he's nervous. What do we do now? I don't like it.
Yeah.
Whereas before the World Cup, when somebody asked Eddie Jones, I can't remember what the question was, and Eddie Jones, it's going to be the worst question somebody's ever asked. You're the worst reporter ever. I'm like, my God,
that's a stupid question, mate. That's an awful question.
Give yourself an uppercut. That was
give yourself an uppercut.
Give yourself an uppercut, mate.
Ugh.
Do you ever see that story where I think Matt Ghetto he said that he turned like 18 or he turned 19 in a Wallabies camp before a World Cup, and Eddie took him aside and was like, you can't drink for your birthday, right? I mean it. You can't have anything. We've got a game at the weekend. And Ghetto was like, all right, took it really seriously. And then Eddie just spent the next 2 days just publicly trying to get him to have a drink in front of other people. Ghetto was like, what? Just had no idea what was going on.
Oh, dear.
Oh gosh!
It's like Parent Trap, isn't it? Like,
that's mad.
Poor Eddie.
It's like wet paint. Do not touch. No, don't touch it. You cannot touch it. But if you touch it, it's like your own fault. But wait, no. Have a drink if you want, Matt. It's fine.
Part of me does feel sorry for Eddie Jones because he's gone into the Japan setup now. He said before that England test that he says, I think we're going to surprise England, we're going to run them closer. Got an absolute pasting. He took a Japanese A team out, got an absolute pasting by the Maori All Blacks.
No, what was it? I can see this Japan side hitting the top 4 of the world. I was like, I can't. Not in any lifetime can I think of that happening.
Oh,
And I
Eddie.
even like steered into it. I was like, okay, let's just say it's possible. Who are you knocking out of that top 4?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Who in the top 4 right now aren't putting 50+ points over you?
Exactly, yeah. It's one of them that I'm like, I love it when coaches say stuff and I'm like, good, believe that. And then when Dave Jones comes out with stuff, I'm like, you don't actually feel that's going to happen, do you? You can't possibly think that way.
No.
I don't even feel like the players, like, once that came out, Michael Leach and the boys are just like, no. Do we look like a top 4 side? No, we don't.
It reminds me a lot of the Mourinho trajectory. It's like the teams that you manage get smaller, so the stuff that you say has to get bigger.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Do you reckon Eddie Jones is the special one?
He's special.
Yeah, I think in some ways.
I'll give him that.
Back on topic to the tour.
Yeah, South Africa, Ireland's gonna be a great tour. Sorry, had to mention Eddie Jones. You can't talk about international rugby and not mention Eddie Jones.
No, you can't.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. I can't tell if it's gonna be 1-0 or 2-0. I mean, like 2-0 South Africa. I can't see Ireland did 2. That'd be amazing though. Nobody's ever talking about that one.
If Ireland do 2-0, then I'm going into sort of like solitude for a while.
Then Cam's going full Welsh then.
No, that's even worse.
Because
because they're going to get 2-0 by Australia.
If Ireland go 2-0, I'm booking my 2027 tickets straight away. I'm booking my flights. I'm out there.
There you go.
Don't get a ticket to the quarterfinal though.
Well, quarterfinal's fine. Quarterfinal's fine. You can rely on that. And are they changing the format for the next one? I think whenever they change the format.
More teams.
Yeah, we'll get past it whenever they change the format.
Oh, there we are. Happy days. We might see some history.
So yeah, that's basically the summer tours. Done, dusted, reviewed, looked into in somewhat depth.
Well, let's not forget we are having France versus Argentina, which France should win.
Cares?
We've got Italy playing the Pacific Islands, which Italy should win.
I'm more excited about the Italy tour than France because Fabio Galtier doesn't even care about the tour. Why would I?
He might as well send his under. He might as well send his under-20s team out there.
To be fair,
I don't know. They look pretty good yesterday.
Yeah, they do look. They look very dangerous.
Under-20s World Cup is now underway, and it was fun.
We've got about 5 teams who are competitors, like contenders.
They all won yesterday.
Well, Silly me was like, Ireland, that was going to be close based off the Six Nations. No. Ireland just went for it 55-15. I was like, great.
No, England hammered Argentina. The All Blacks were close for Wales.
What was the final score?
It was 41-36, I think, in the end.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was a tie.
I knew the score, and then I watched the game literally just before, because no way was I getting up at 5 a.m. Sorry. And I was watching it, and it was like 36-10 with 12 minutes to go, and I was going, where do we blow up? And it was all in the last 5 minutes. It was not great. So we shall see what comes. I think we've got France up next, so that's going to be a tall task.
Fun, because France got Spain in the first game, which, yeah.
I felt for those Spanish players. Like, there were parts of the game where just nothing was going right.
Some of them got 12 points past.
Yeah. Some of the players in this tournament, though, at the Under-20 World Cup, scare me. Like, I am 25, soon to be 26. I'm like, there's no way I started school when you were born. Like, look at the size of you. And,
there's nothing that emasculates you more than when you look at the Springboks under-20s team, and they've all got stronger beards than you.
Yeah, I'm just eyeing up the talent. Oh, you could be good in an Edinburgh jersey, straight out of high school.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Scottish scouts out in the South African under-20.
Never forget that we've got the third most capped players from under-20s. Thank you, Andy, for that.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. See, but people say that we don't have development. Yeah, we do.
I don't know the players across the teams, but like, did you see Hugo Royce is playing for France? He has like 20 appearances in the top 14. Like, he's played a lot of like senior professional rugby. Are there many others like that across the tournament? I know there's Redshaw for England, the fullback. He's played a few games for Newcastle, hasn't he?
He's played for Newcastle, yeah. He's been good.
But it just shows you the quality.
That's frightening. That's terrifying. But yeah, it's been the rugby. Actually, quick question just before we all round off. Just because the Blues kind of teased it, and now that after this weekend result, I definitely want it. Who would win, Blues or Toulouse?
Oh.
It's such an unknown. Where would they be playing? Is it neutral? Are we going neutral venue?
Yeah, we'll go to neutral venue. Put it in.
Put it Loftus.
No.
Yeah, altitude. Both of you get it.
God.
Money spinner.
Oh, God.
Money spinner. Tack it on at the end of the Nations Championship. Do it in Qatar.
There we go.
Yeah, that's it. Get the money. Get the money.
I'm so dark about that.
Yeah.
I mean, we could go.
I've recently handed in my Highlanders fan badge, having lived now in Auckland for 3 years. So I think this is my first test as a new Blues fan. So have me on the record saying that Blues would beat Toulouse, and I'm just saying it so that Tane, who does the Blues socials, doesn't rip me a new one.
There, that's a good answer. You always have to watch what you're saying. I like that. I don't know. I generally don't know, because Toulouse, on our end, nobody's touching them.
Freakish.
59.
Well, I do have to bring up the fact that Leinster were a half a yard and a drop goal away from beating them in the Champions Cup final. So
you can't keep doing this, Andy. You were half a yard and drop kick from being the All Blacks
Don't do it, it's okay, mate. It's okay. You can let go now.
See what happens when you rub shoulders with South Africans? They just never let things go.
I wouldn't like to pick a winner in that game, though. Those are two amazing teams.
I'd like to just go. I don't know who I'd root for. I would just sit there and be like, DuPont's there, but Ben Barrett's there. And just sit and just like,
Because, and the packs, they're both so strong up front.
So strong.
Like, I don't know who wins that fight.
There's only one way to find out. Like,
make it happen.
Maybe Toulouse have the edge in the front row, so I give it to them. Maybe.
But then I'd probably give the Blues the edge in the back row.
Their back row was alarming this year. It was alarming.
I don't know, but then
Toulouse's is as well.
You've got the Jack Willis factor.
Yeah.
You've got the Jack Willis factor.
Hoskins Satutu versus Jack Willis.
Halfbacks, you'd have to give it to Toulouse.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. Centres, you give it to. But
then back three, the likes of Mark Talea, Caleb Clark.
Yeah, you give it to them
got
as
them
well.
on the wings.
Yeah.
Who were Toulouse? Weren't Toulouse playing Blair Kinghorn on the wing?
On the wing, and he did well.
Mate, he dropped an absolute gimme.
I forgot, because of all the action in the game. I actually forgot about it, and then I seen your review, and I was like, "Oh yeah, he missed absolute setter."
Yeah, I was so happy he did score, because after that one, you'd be regretting that one for a long time.
But I mean, 59-3 in the final. What?
Yeah, but the problem is like just seeing the stuff that Antoine Dupont was doing in that game.
It's his world, and we live in it.
Genuinely, it is. Like, I don't own this house. This isn't mine. Antoine Dupont.
But Ntamack as well. The left-footed grubber for the Ramos try, like, it's just ridiculous.
What about Capuzzo just coming off the bench to run it in from section? Yeah, why not? game's done. You've already won the title, but do you kick it out? No. Let's just run it from our own trial line. And
Give it to the Italian boy.
the Italian boy and we'll run a world, eh? But yeah, summer tour up and ready. Squads will be announced this week. And let the fighting begin. Well, for your end, I can't see much fighting on my tour.
You can get a scrap with the American.
Oh, okay. I'll argue with Keith then. That's cool. That works. There we go. Started. Yeah, but that's the summer tour. We're all ready for it. We're all excited for them. There's going to be lots of talking points in the coming weeks. Probably lots of controversy. Depends on what side of the fence you sit on in the games. But it's been great. Ella, Andy, Cam, an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Well, for three of us this early. Ella, thank you for coming on late at night.
No problem. No problem. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome back anytime. And next week it's the first test reviews.
Crunch time.
Crunch time. I hope you two boys play nice next week.
Oh, we were all right this week.
We're very civil, I'd say.
Yeah.
I think we're probably the most civil South African Irish fans you can get.
Right, because you haven't played yet. Wait till next week and like one just doesn't show up.
You're just going to see a feral side to both of us.
All right, I have to go, team. Thank you so much.
No worries, Ella. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Murray. See you
Cheers.
later.
Nice one, guys.
Bye.
I mean, I was just about to finish. I was just about to sign off anyway.
Yeah.
Well, Rugby Connection podcast. We're on YouTube. We're on Spotify. Myself and Andy are on LinkedIn. I believe Ella's also on LinkedIn. Cam, step your shit up on that one.
Nah, I can't be asked.
Fair enough. We're all on TikTok. If you like Ella, go on and give her a follow. She is at Ella Ferguson 5, I believe it's number 5. Andy is at Rugby Nos. Cam is at Cam Musafa. And if you like what I do, I'm at +4 Rugby HQ. Until next week, enjoy having a chilled out week because there's no rugby on until next week. It's crunch time next week, and we'll be back talking all the ins and outs from the first tests. And until then, see you later.